Test, 1, 2, 3, test. Test. Est-ce que quelqu'un m'entend? Ok, cool, cool. Bonjour à tous, Crypto AD ici. Alors, comme tout le monde, je viens d'entendre de la nouvelle. Quoique Gary Gensler, c'est terminé. Il a steppé down, comme on dit là. La nouvelle est sortie tantôt. Gary Gensler quittera son poste de président de la SEC, c'est pas une surprise là. Avec tout ce qu'on entendait parler depuis quelques temps. C'était pas surprenant du tout là. Ok. Gary Gensler a annoncé qu'il quittait officiellement son poste de président de la Security and Exchange Commission des États-Unis. En effet, un communiqué de presse indique que Gensler quittera l'agence le 20 janvier. Il faut encore l'endurer jusqu'au 20 janvier, après 3 ans de présidence. Gensler a été nommé pour la première fois,
Alléluia.
on se rappelle, hein, en avril 2021, après avoir été nommé par l'actuel président Joe Biden, qui a pris la place de Jay Clayton. Et bye bye Gary, bye bye. Mon Dieu, ça c'est une bonne nouvelle. En plus, aujourd'hui, ça va être le XRP Unleash. Ben, j'ai reçu, à peu près 1 heure, la diffusion. Je pourrais la commencer maintenant, mais je vais m'en tenir à l'heure que j'avais dit. Je pensais la recevoir juste comme ce soir quand ça allait décoller, mais je l'ai reçu. J'ai même checké un coup d'œil vite vite, là, mais j'ai pas triché, j'ai pas regardé avant vous, là. J'ai regardé genre 1 minute. OK? Juste pour vous dire. Salut à
XRP,
J-Live.
il a repris 10 centimes.
Ben, il est monté à 1,24
1,22.
12. 1,24. 1,24
Ah, 24 là?
51. Ouais. Ouais, il est monté à 1,24. Regarde, si on le regarde en unité de temps plus petit pour voir, là. Il est monté ici à 1,24 $. OK. On le voit très très bien aussi en daily, là. Si on met une ligne et qu'on délimite ça avec mon aimant, pouf, 1,24 $, 12. Et là, il y a un pullback. 1,25 $ est important. J'ai hâte de voir quand ça va dépasser 1,25 $. Parce que c'est un chiffre comme facile à retenir, 1,25 $, c'est pas comme 1,23 $ ou 1,27 $. Et après ça, ben là, le haut de la bougie du 16 novembre, samedi passé, elle est de 1,26 $. Après ça, si on va voir plus loin, qu'est-ce qu'on a? Ben, j'ai laissé en place des informations. Monthly plutôt. On va mieux voir. Fait que là, 1,25, prochaine étape. Après ça, 1,26 $, OK, qui est un high, qui est là, un swing high. Après ça, la zone qui est super importante à mes yeux, c'est 1,66 $. Je l'ai mentionné il y a quelques temps. OK, ben, ça nous passé. Et par la suite, pour moi, ça ici, c'est du gâteau. OK, là, dans cette week-là, ça va aller très vite. Surtout pour se rendre dans le milieu, là, ici, euh, du rectangle. OK, à peu près à 1 à 2,64 $. On va avoir beaucoup d'actions d'ici le 20 janvier. Puis attendez-vous à voir le prix faire des drôles de choses. Puis ben, Bitcoin aussi aujourd'hui, je pense que c'est dans la poche. On va aller franchir les 100 000 là, sûr et certain. On va aller voir ça. Bitcoin 98, 788, mais on n'a pas atteint 100. On a atteint 99 quelques par exemple tantôt. 98, 831. Je pense qu'on avait atteint 99. 98, 831. De toute façon, on peut le voir très très bien sur la charte. On va se mettre Bitcoin à côté, c'est pourquoi pas. Pour avoir deux chartes à côté de l'autre. BTC en daily avec des chandelles normales, là. Rien de d'autre. Boum. Et comme ça. Tiens. reçoit Bitcoin à gauche, à droite comme ça, puis XRP à, XRP à gauche, Bitcoin à droite. Je suis sûr et certain qu'aujourd'hui, c'est 100 000, là. Ça tape 100 000 Bitcoin, c'est sûr. C'est impossible que ça tape pas 100 000 avec cette bonne nouvelle-là. Je sais que ça c'est pas relié nécessairement à eux, mais tu sais, je veux dire, ça reste que c'est l'ensemble de la crypto là, tu sais, qui surveille ce gars-là. Puis c'est une bonne nouvelle parce que ça va aider tout le monde. C'est pas parce que c'est nous qui ont été accusés, puis tu sais, qu'on a été mis euh, tu sais, comme qu'on a été malmenés depuis 4 ans, tu sais, que ça concerne juste nous, là. C'est tout le monde. C'est l'industrie en tant que telle qui va juste mieux se comporter avec quelqu'un d'autre qui va faire en sorte qu'il ne va pas nuire au développement. Tu sais, c'est ça qui est important, là, de ne pas nuire au développement. Tu sais, c'est correct que ça existe, l'agence. Tu sais, ça laisse sa place, là. C'est pas ça que je dis, ça laisse sa place. Parce qu'il y a un paquet de mauvais acteurs. Mais de t'en prendre comme ça à Ripple, bah, OK, on pourrait en parler longtemps là. C'est sûr que les ventes qui ont été faites pour les institutions, OK, ça c'est correct, là, ils ont eu claque ses doigts, on va voir là. Mais en tant que tel, tu sais, depuis le 13 juillet, XRP n'est pas une sécurité. That's it. C'est ceux qui ont mal agi en faisant quand même quelque chose de plus ou moins correct, on s'entend là, de vendre aux institutions, mais les ventes secondaires sur les marchés, pas de problème. On peut très très bien faire affaire, puis c'est pas un problème. Puis on n'est pas des investisseurs, là. On n'est pas comme quelqu'un qui s'attend d'avoir un retour, là. On était très très bien conscient qu'en investissant dans XRP, que tout peut arriver. Puis on n'a pas un papier là qui nous dit qu'on a acheté du XRP puis qu'on a un titre là. Il faut faire attention, tu sais. Des fois, c'est facile de comme répéter qu'est-ce qu'on entend là de bord puis de l'autre. Mais tu sais, jusqu'à ce jour, il y a encore du monde là, qui sont pas au courant là, qu'XRP, c'est la seule crypto, techniquement, là, qui a eu juridiquement un statut. Bitcoin, c'est comme si ils ont un statut sans avoir passé par la même voie. Mais c'est les deux seuls cryptos qu'on peut se vanter que on est comme clairé, là, on est clean, tu sais. Si y en a qui veulent parler, il faut aller sur Discord. C'est open, le salon, c'est ouvert. Vous pouvez aller poser des questions, sinon vous pouvez les poser ici dans le chat YouTube. Bonjour à Trading Virtuel, Dominique, Nico, Benouziani, Romain, Willy, Antonio, Ismaël, Saladin, Faites chaud, Karim, La Feuse 35. Les planètes s'alignent.
Ah,
Ben
puis
oui.
là, dans le classement, on est en sixième.
Hein?
Hein?
Oui, vas-y, répète, j'ai pas entendu.
Je disais, dans le classement, on est en sixième position, mais dans les prochains mois, je vois bien quand même arriver en deuxième position.
Pourquoi pas? Reprendre la position qui nous est due, si on pourrait dire, hein? À quelque part, on
Ouais.
était numéro 2 avant qu'on ait cette brique-là qui nous tombe dessus, là. Très content, c'est une bonne nouvelle. Jeudi, ici, c'est moi, là, fait que c'est une bonne nouvelle pour moi. Ça, à soir, le documentaire. Après ça, il y avait, euh, il y avait de quoi faire sur la bourse. J'ai pas dit ce mot-là depuis longtemps. Sur le trading. Mais pas à matin. À matin, il n'y avait rien à faire. C'était vraiment comme aucune opportunité avec ce que j'enseigne là, gratuitement. Mais il y avait de quoi faire après dîner. Il y avait des opportunités à prendre, puis vous pouviez les prendre si vous êtes quelqu'un qui veut les prendre. Ok? C'est pas parce qu'on on a des opportunités qu'on veut les prendre, là. Mais il y avait de quoi faire. Sûrement pas sur le pétrole, ça c'était dégueulasse. Ok? Le pétrole aujourd'hui, c'était à éviter. Il y avait de quoi faire euh, sur sur l'euro, ok? Mais tard. Sinon, qu'est-ce qu'il y avait de quoi faire? Le Nasdaq, il n'y avait rien à faire à part tantôt. Tantôt, je dis à 12h45, il y avait un petite position à prendre, mais il fallait pas être gourmand. Et d'ailleurs, elle est encore en marche avec un pullback. Pour ce qui est du gold, il y a de quoi présentement qui est arrivé à 1h30. Mais étant donné que le prix n'est pas beau depuis l'ouverture, j'éviterai le gold. Puis Bitcoin, ben, c'est pas compliqué. Il y avait une opportunité à prendre à 12h30 au prix de 98 150. Ici, on pouvait rentrer en position et prendre un long. Paf, puis on a profité d'une belle montée. OK? Fait il n'y a pas eu grand-chose. Les opportunités étaient cette nuit. Pour ceux qui étaient, mettons, disponibles, là, ils étaient cette nuit pour l'heure de New York. Là. Pendant que moi je dors, il y avait des belles opportunités, puis aussi dans la matinée. OK? Fait que je surveille ça maintenant sur la chaîne Trader Relay tous les matins à 9h30 heure de New York. Je surveille le 5-6 marchés là. OK? Mon micro est faible ou celui de l'intervenant trop élevé. Mon micro, moi, il est pareil là, comme qu'il est depuis ce matin. Tout est correct de mon côté. Là. Il y en a-tu d'autres qui pensent que mon volume est faible? J'ai rien touché de particulier là. J'ai le même setup que tous les jours là. Sors le champagne, Raya. Ouais, ben ouais. Moi, je vais sortir, pas aujourd'hui, mais c'est sûr que je vais le sortir un jour ou l'autre, là. On va attendre que le prix coûte plus cher que ça. Mais c'est une belle nouvelle, ça fait plaisir. Ah ouais, c'est peut-être de ton côté pour le son, celui qui me dit ça, là. A-E-T, fit affiliation, là. Tant qu'on l'a à plus d'1 dollar, le job a bien commencé. En François. Vous étiez connecté sur votre téléphone, hein, parce que j'ai fait un live, puis ça s'est tout connecté en même temps, là. 80 personnes. Oh, vous étiez comme à l'affût, comme on dit. Vous étiez prêts. Et hop, vous avez vu que je faisais un live où vous surveillez quelque chose, une alerte. Francis, je viens d'acheter du XRP et j'achète quand, tout de suite, ou j'attends à moins cher. Je viens d'acheter du XRP. Je l'achète quand, tout de suite, ou j'attends à moins cher. Euh, ok, tu veux acheter, ok. J'ai mal lu, désolé. Ben, t'attends à moins cher. Je suis pas un conseiller, là. Je suis pas licencié pour te dire d'acheter à 1,20 $. Imagine, je te dis d'acheter à 1,20 $ puis il descend à 90 cents de matin. Comment est-ce que tu vas me. Qu'est-ce que tu as pensé de moi là? Fait que c'est sûr que j'achèterai un peu, puis après ça, je m'organiserai pour essayer de racheter un peu plus bas. Mais rien faire, c'est pas prendre d'action. Pas prendre d'action, c'est pas être dans la game là. Mais oui, j'achèterais un peu si je pouvais. Mais il n'y a rien qui prouve qu'il va rester à 1,20 puis qu'il ne va pas descendre un peu avant là, de remonter. Fait que je sais pas. C'est à toi de voir avec ton budget. Une chose est sûre, c'est de ne pas tout acheter d'une claque. Essaie de voir, mais c'est très très dur pour moi de dire d'acheter maintenant, là, à l'instant, à 1,20 $, 59 là. Oui, ton volume est bas. Un autre qui dit ça, Denis. En tout cas, l'intervenant m'a pété les oreilles quand il a parlé. Trop de différence de volume entre vous deux. Ben, Discord, c'est sûr que j'ai peut-être des setups là, qu'il faut que j'aille arranger pour essayer peut-être de faire quelque chose là. Il y a peut-être de quoi là-dedans là, que j'ignore là, puis que je dois ajuster pour que ça soit peut-être moins fort pour ceux qui parlent, puis plus fort pour moi, je sais pas. Euh, je peux l'enlever. C'est juste que c'est le fun d'avoir du monde qui parle. Là. Fait que c'est sûr que si je m'approche comme ça, proche du micro, ça va être plus fort. Mais j'étais à 2 pouces là, de mon micro, là. C'est pas comme tellement cool. Là. Ouais, fait un DCA, comme Lanfrost 35 dit. C'est trop tard pour acheter. Non. Il n'est jamais trop tard. Est-ce qu'il était trop tard d'acheter du Bitcoin quand ça coûtait 20 000 ou 5 000 ou quand un matin je dis mon exemple de 5 000. Je me rappelle, là, même pas si longtemps que ça, là, quand il était à 5 000, j'étais dans l'auto avec ma femme, puis on allait faire vacciner ma fille, puis le Bitcoin était à 5 000, puis elle voulait l'acheter. Puis là, je dis OK, 5 000, c'est pas super. Mais là, en même temps, tu sais, comme 5 000, t'en auras pas une tonne, là, 5 000. Puis tu sais, quand on regarde ça, puis que là, je lui montre le prix à matin qui était au-dessus de 90 000, elle me regarde avec des gros yeux, hein. Puis elle dit, pourquoi t'as pas acheté plus, tu sais? J'ai pas beaucoup de bitcoin, là. C'est là qui dit qu'il est trop tard pour acheter maintenant, mais pas trop tard pour acheter maintenant et faire du DCA sur le long terme. Tu feras pas d'argent si tu achètes maintenant du XRP. Et 22 janvier 2025, le XRP sera parti en force et surtout régulé. XRP Union, Raya acheté à 36 cents. 36 centimes acheté maintenant, ça serait dommage, mais si ça, je sais pas ce que ça veut dire. Maintenant que Dark Gary s'en va, achète en avant que l'ETF XRP soit validé. Contrairement à l'ETF ETH ou Solana, le XRP est visé par les gros. Ben, le monde pense que le ETF Ethereum n'est pas un succès. Ben, c'est un succès, mais on dirait qu'il passe un peu plus inaperçu que l'ETF Bitcoin. Ça, c'est clair, là. C'est la vedette, c'est le leader, la vedette de la place, hein. Comme dans une piste de danse, c'est toujours quelqu'un qui danse mieux que tout le monde, là. Ben, le Bitcoin, c'est lui qui vole la vedette. C'est sûr qu'on dirait que l'ETF Ethereum, même s'il est très performant, l'ETF Ethereum, qu'il y a beaucoup d'argent pareil qui rentre là-dedans, là, il n'est pas comme Bitcoin. Mais oui, XRP, je pense qu'il va avoir un bon succès sur l'ETF. Mais tu sais, les ETF, c'est une chose, mais moi, qu'est-ce qui m'intéresse le plus dans tout ce qui s'en vient, c'est un mélange de plusieurs choses. Mais leur IPO, c'est une chose qui va arriver, soyez-en sûrs. Pas cette année, par exemple, mais c'est une chose qui va arriver. Moi, qu'est-ce qui m'intéresse le plus dans tout ce qui s'en vient, c'est leur stablecoin. Pour être franc, là, leur stablecoin, c'est ce qui m'intéresse le plus. Ok, c'est ça qui m'allume le plus. Puis quand j'avais appris cette nouvelle-là, ça fait pas si longtemps que ça qu'on sait ça qu'il va y avoir un RLUSD, là, un stablecoin. Ça fait même pas une année qu'on sait ça, ça fait moins d'une année. Fait que c'est sûr et certain que ça, c'est moi le truc qui m'intéresse le plus, c'est vraiment leur stablecoin. Suivi de leur IPO, tu sais, pour 2025, on va dire. Après ça, ben, tout ce qui est tokenisation, ça, c'est pas quelque chose qui va se faire du jour au lendemain. Quand que l'IPO, il peut t'annoncer, puis ça va se faire rapidement. Parce que c'est déjà comme préparé, puis leur paperasse est déjà comme en marche. Et tout ce qui est tokenisation, d'actifs du monde réel, ça, faut attendre. Ça va prendre du temps, mais c'est quelque chose aussi qui m'intéresse beaucoup. Il y a beaucoup de choses qui m'intéressent dans la compagnie sur qu'est-ce qu'ils font, mais le plus, c'est leur stablecoin. Ben, je sais l'utilité qu'il va avoir et comment est-ce qu'il va être utilisé. Après le départ de Gary Gensler, disons fin janvier, le XRP sera au moins à 1,5 $. Ok, c'est la dingue qui demande ça. Raya, je pense que toutes les vidéos que j'ai vues des personnes idiotes qui parlaient pour faire du bruit, shitcoin, blablabla, now they cry. Ben, mettons que je sois assez tranquille, hein, les personnes qui parlent en mal d'XRP, ils se la ferment un peu, là. J'avoue qu'ils sont pas très présentes sur ma chaîne, puis je tolère plus là, nécessairement non plus là, de personnes que je dis qui sont pas à leur place, là. Moi, je me tiens dans une avec une gang, c'est parce que j'ai du fun, puis j'ai du plaisir, puis je sais pas, j'aime qu'est-ce qu'ils font. Mais puis qu'est-ce qui se passe, puis qu'est-ce qui se dit, puis le monde, mais pourquoi je m'en irais dans une gang, puis un club où ce que j'aime pas? Si j'aime le heavy metal, pourquoi j'irais voir un spectacle de hip-hop? Vous comprenez? Fait que le monde qui sont sur ma chaîne, c'est parce qu'ils m'XRP, là. La grande majorité, là, je dirais que c'est 90-10 ou 95-5. Là. Des fois, j'ai des dislikes, des pouces par en bas, là. Puis je me demande pourquoi, là. Je me dis, ah, pourquoi que j'ai des pouces par en bas? Le monde, qui aime pas ça, ma chaîne, ou peu importe, le XRP, pourquoi qu'ils viennent voir? Ils viennent s'aîner pour apprendre peut-être quelque chose qu'ils ignorent. Je sais pas. Je sais pas, mais j'ai pas une tonne de thumb down, mais quand j'en ai, je me dis, OK, il y a une certaine quantité de personnes qui m'écoutent puis qui aiment pas XRP ou moi. Tu sais, c'est correct. C'est pas un problème, là. OK, je suis pas là pour faire un concours de popularité, là. Les deux graphiques donnent le sourire. Ben, c'est sûr que depuis les élections, on pourrait d'ailleurs délimiter les élections, qui est le mardi 5 novembre. C'est comme un peu un bottom, on pourrait dire. OK, ça, c'est les élections. Oups, c'est pas ça que je veux faire. Bottom, center, puis grossir le texte à 20, tiens, comme ça. Fait que, tu sais, les élections, ça a été vraiment comme l'élément qui a, euh, qui a déclenché la course. Regardez, c'est un parfait, là, genre, pas le bottom des bottoms, mais un sacré bon mouvement pareil, là. On va écrire comme du monde. Hein, on est en français ici, là, on parle comme du monde. Ça. Fait que élection, si on mesure à partir du début des élections jusqu'à maintenant, au prix qu'on est, ça commence à faire quand même pas mal. Là. Regardez l'appréciation du XRP. 45%. Passé de 67 000 à 98 000. C'est exceptionnel. OK. XRP, boum, jusque-là. C'est ça pour qu'on puisse voir. C'est mon image ici d'abord, comme ça. OK. Alors, 134%, c'est 134,98% pour XRP d'appréciation depuis le jour des élections, qui est là. OK. Et pour Bitcoin, 45. C'est trois fois plus d'appréciation. Mais on s'entend que c'est pas parce que tu apprécies trois fois plus que ton prix monte comme cher. Là. OK? Mais quand même, 135% depuis le 5 novembre versus 45%. Fait que oui, on peut dire que le Bitcoin il underperform, mais de là à dire underperform, ça serait pas vraiment correct là. Et qu'on voit très bien que c'est loin d'être sous-performant là. Passer d'un montant comme ça, qui était de 67 000 à 98 000, c'est exceptionnel. Là. Je connais rien au monde qui monte aussi vite que ça en aussi peu de temps que ça. Il n'y a rien. Il n'y a rien qui peut battre ça. Là. Ok? Y a rien qui peut battre ça pour l'instant. Il n'y a rien qui peut battre Bitcoin pour l'instant par rapport à- au prix, là, comment est-ce qu'il peut bouger vite. 4-5 000 en une journée, c'est même plus un truc qui nous fait peur. Ça l'arrive, là, 4-5 000 par année, par jour avec Bitcoin. Ismaël, on s'en fout des pouces en bas, on est avec toi. Ah, merci. Je tiens la barre même par gros temps. Ah, ouais, ben c'est ça. C'est, il faut tenir le coup. C'est comme ça qu'il faut faire. Et 30 000 d'appréciation. Bitcoin, XRP, 67 centimes d'appréciation. Qu'on voit ici à droite, là. Qui est 67. On est parti de 50 plus 67. Ça nous donne le prix actuel. Là, on vient d'avoir un bon pullback quand même, 1,17$. Est-ce que c'est juste un petit pompe comme ça, 1,24$ comme tantôt, et là, oups, ça dégonfle? Ah, on va voir. On va voir, on va voir. Peut-être millionnaire avec le XRP sous peu. Ah, sous peu, je sais pas, mais un jour ou l'autre, je l'espère bien. Ça me prendrait pas énormément d'appréciation pour le devenir, là, ça c'est clair. Chacun, c'est sûr, un cas différent, là. On se compare pas, mais mettons que je devrais bien m'en sortir. Est-ce que ça vaut la peine d'attendre longtemps? Bien sûr que oui, ça vaut la peine d'attendre longtemps, c'est ça. Oli, je te croyais plus open que ça. Open, tu veux que je fasse quoi? Que je fume un joint puis que je prends une bière en direct? Désolé, je fume pas, je bois pas. Non, c'est quoi tu veux dire par plus open? Open. Oh, l'XRP, le son de mon micro, qu'est-ce qu'il a? Quelqu'un d'autre qui dit que mon son est pas bon? Les questions en amont? Ah, j'ai pas tout vu les questions. C'est pour ça qu'il a du potentiel. Revolut veut lancer son stablecoin aussi, concurrencer Tether. Ben, Tether, tantôt, il va avoir de sacrés concurrents, là. Ça, c'est clair. Ta question n'est pas inspirante. On va aller voir c'est quoi, j'ai pas vu Anatide. Attends une seconde, que je remonte en haut. Et où ta question? Ok, j'ai monté en haut, je l'ai pas vu, là. La seule question que j'ai vue de toi, c'est pas vu de question à part, ma question n'est apparemment pas pertinente, inspirante. C'est pas, peut-être que ta question elle a été filtrée, je sais pas. Aucune idée, mais tu peux venir parler sur Discord, de vive voix, ça te tente. Scroll XRP, ouais, tu dis que mon volume est bas ou t'es devenu sourd. Bah, absolument, je touche à rien à tout ce que j'ai comme setup. Comme ça, je suis sûr de pas faire de gaffe, là. Tu sais, mon volume, quand même assez fort. Plus que ça risque de faire. Je vais m'entendre respirer là, si je m'approche trop là. Sensei Crypto. Hein. En parlant de Sensei, j'ai commencé à écouter la série Cobra Kai, Karate Kid. J'ai écouté, j'ai vu ça sur Netflix. Puis je suis rendu à l'épisode 3. Ça rappelle des souvenirs. En tout cas, vraiment, j'avais beaucoup ça quand j'étais jeune. Puis là, ils ont refait de quoi pour plus tard. Daniel Larousseau. En tout cas, c'est vraiment une bonne série. À écouter. David, moi j'ai une question qui m'inquiète. Si le XRP monte vraiment beaucoup, est-on certain d'arriver à les vendre sur les exchanges? Ne risque pas de suspendre tout. Ben, l'autre fois, Binance, ils ont suspendu là, pendant un certain moment. Je ne sais pas combien de temps que ça a duré. Mais on ne pouvait pas retirer nos XRP. Ok, ils avaient suspendu. Je n'ai pas checké la raison, s'il en a donné une, mais je sais que Binance, ils ont eu des problèmes. La journée que ça a monté ici, là, le 16 novembre, là, il s'est passé de quoi, puis ils ont niaisé. Ok. Ils ont tombé l'eau en soufflage, je sais pas, mais il y a quelque chose qui s'est passé, puis il y a des rumeurs, je le dis, il y a des rumeurs qu'apparemment Arthur Brito aurait backé Binance pour qu'il y ait assez de supply. C'est ce que j'ai entendu, ok? Je sais pas si c'est vrai. Parce que ce fantôme-là d'Arthur Brito, il est toujours actif, hein? Il est pas mort, là. C'est un gars qui existe, qui veut être inconnu. Puis il possède énormément de XRP, hein? C'est pas une question à négocier, il y en a beaucoup. Est-ce que c'est à cause de lui que ça a fait dropper? Je penserais pas. Je pense pas que ce genre de gars-là, ils sont déjà archi-millionnaires, milliardaires plutôt. Pourquoi qu'ils voudraient encore plus? C'est bien donné, il y a des limites. Quelqu'un qui a 300 000 400 000 puis qui peut faire 10 millions, là, je peux comprendre, une bonne différence. Mais quelqu'un qui a déjà 1 milliard de dollars, pourquoi qu'il voudrait 1,1 ou 1,2, là, tu sais, déjà 1 milliard, là. Mais on dit ça, mais regardez Elon Musk, comment il vaut, puis je veux dire, ça change rien qu'on lui enlève, là. Il a donné 100 quelques millions là, à la campagne de Trump. Puis pour lui, c'est du pocket change, là. Oui, le vrai USD, ça va faire en sorte que le XRP va burner. C'est sûr. Oui, Steph, ça, je suis d'accord. Salut le D, content pour moi. Good. Steph, il a fallu qu'il attende jusqu'au bout pour partir. Jusqu'à la prise de poste de Trump. Ouais. Ah ouais. Pascal, penses-tu qu'il faut continuer à faire du DCA ou attendre une baisse? C'est vraiment une question personnelle. Je peux pas te dire. Stéphane, il prend son temps, Gary. Il a profité des procès pour faire un gros bag d'XRP. Ah ouais, je suis sûr qu'il y en a en cachette. Le pas gentil, hein. Il est pas gentil, ce monsieur-là. Et jusqu'au 20 janvier, il va compléter son bag, le cochon. Euh, et 1,16$, on recule de pas mal, pareil, hein. On était à 1,12$. Mais là, ça va vite. Regardez là, comment est-ce que le prix bouge vite. Tu sais, là, de 1,16$, ça va vite. C'est sûr qu'il y a quand même pas mal de grosses quantités qui circulent là. Vu la news sur plusieurs sites d'infos, patience est une vertu. Où peut-on voir le nouveau documentaire? On peut le voir carrément avec moi ce soir. OK. Je devrais quasiment le diffuser tout de suite, hein? Il y a 110 personnes. Je devrais le diffuser tout de suite. On peut le voir sur... parce qu'il est sur le site. Regardez, il est là. OK. Il est prêt à commencer, il est là. Regardez, je vais vous montrer un petit exemple là. OK. Ça dure en passant 1h40. OK, je ne vais pas vous décevoir là. Mais c'est pas grave, hein, si vous n'êtes pas présent, je vais le... Ils sont peut-être en reprise. OK? Honnêtement, c'est sûr et certain que je pourrais très bien le laisser jouer, puis quitter mon écran, puis partir là. Mais parce que le X, c'est qu'ils m'ont envoyé accès à ça juste là, à peu près 2 heures. J'ai reçu un courriel, puis ils m'ont dit que j'avais accès. Mais quand on regarde le, le courriel, ça disait qu'à 6 heures Pacific Time, que j'allais être capable de le visionner. Mais il m'a envoyé un courriel, puis j'ai cliqué, puis on peut le voir tout de suite. Mais là, j'ai dit à tout le monde que c'était juste ce soir. Alors, si je le montre tout de suite, puis qu'il y a du monde qui vient ce soir, ben, ils vont être déçus. Mais en même temps, il y a 110 personnes, là, je pourrais tellement décoller tout de suite si je voudrais là. Il est sur Netflix aussi? Non, je crois pas, non. Je pense qu'ils essaient, par exemple, de mettre ça là-dessus, là. Mais effectivement, je l'ai ici, il est là, le documentaire. OK? Tout est là, tout est prêt à visionner. Je vais faire ça plus tard. De toute façon, si vous n'êtes pas présent, c'est pas grave, là. Vous retournez sur ma chaîne, puis vous la regardez le lendemain ou dans quelques jours, là. Ça va être disponible. OK? J'ai payé pour avoir mon billet électronique. Puis that's it. OK, maintenant, ils ont changé le titre. Ça s'appelle Truqué dès le départ, là. C'est plus XRP Unleashed. Ils ont changé le titre. Puis j'ai vu quelqu'un qui a d'autres langues, autres que l'anglais, c'est traduit en anglais, mais que c'est d'autres langues. Mais quand c'est en anglais qui parle seulement, j'ai pas vu qu'il y avait de traduction, même pas sous-titrage en anglais, fait que je suis un peu déçu. Il n'y a pas de bouton qui me permet de mettre ça non plus en traduction, là. Mais que voulez-vous? Hein? On va comprendre avec les images aussi, là. Tu peux nous laisser regarder, s'il te plaît, j'habite en Suisse. pour moi, ton heure de visionnage, 5-6 heures du matin. Ben, il y a 120 quelques personnes. À quelque part, je pourrais très très bien le laisser jouer puis quitter mon ordinateur, puis moi je le regarderai plus tard là. Je pourrais faire ça, mais là, j'ai dit un truc puis je change d'avis comme ça, je sais pas là, ça se fait-tu? Ça se fait-tu de changer d'avis de même puis de pas le monde qui euh, qui pensent que c'est ce soir et puis qui vont se lever à 4-5 heures du matin, ils vont être déçus là. Guillaume, tu peux le regarder pas en direct, là. Parce que j'étais sûr et certain que, comme qu'ils ont dit, que quand je convertissais le Pacific Time au temps de New York, que ça commençait à 10 heures, puis je pouvais pas le regarder avant. Mais là, il m'a envoyé un courriel, hop, tu peux le regarder. Ah, ok. 128 personnes. Je suis pas mal sûr que tout le monde qui voulait le regarder sont déjà en train de, de le. Dans le fond, vous êtes déjà là. Il est quelle heure chez moi? Il est 15h53. Mais New York, il est 2 heures, qui est 2h53 l'après-midi New York, moi 1 heure de plus, 15h53. Mes enfants, ils vont arriver dans 20 minutes. Si je le fais jouer, je quitte mon écran puis je mets mon micro sur mute puis il va jouer pour vous autres là. Je suis déjà en train de. Les vrais fans sont déjà présents. Ouais, peut-être, ouais. C'est fort possible. 130 personnes. Ou qu'est-ce que je peux faire? Je peux le montrer tout de suite, puis je peux leur montrer plus tard à soir. Pour ceux, tu sais, le montrer en double. Je peux faire ça par exemple. Je peux le montrer tout de suite, puis le monter le remontrer ce soir. C'est comme genre deux fois. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? Ça a de l'allure, ça? De montrer ça 2 fois? Comme 2 présentations, là, maintenant. Ce qui n'est pas trop tard pour vous autres encore en France. Puis je leur montre plus tard à soir pour ceux qui veulent le checker comme prévu. Je pourrais faire ça parce que 127 personnes, je pense que c'est quand même pas mal là pour le montrer là. J'ai juste besoin de peser sur. Je pourrais me déconnecter de Discord. Pas mal des affaires. Discord, euh, dans le fond, qu'est-ce qui se passe? C'est que j'avais créé un événement. OK? Et là, l'événement, c'est du monde qui veulent. C'est juste 9 personnes, là. Ils vont s'en remettre, là. OK? C'est juste, c'est juste 9 personnes qui voulaient être présents pour l'événement. Puis, tu sais, je peux comme le décoller là, mais c'est pas très grave. Je pense que je vais carrément juste le mettre en marche et le remettre plus tard, une deuxième shot. Là, le titre de mon live ne correspond pas avec le documentaire, mais ce soir, je ferai la version d'origine. Alors, je pense que je vais le décoller, puis je vais commencer à le regarder, puis éventuellement, moi, je vais quitter l'ordinateur, puis je vais aller avec ma famille, puis je reviendrai arrêter le documentaire quand il sera fini. Fait que je pense qu'on va y aller avec ça. Comme ça, je vais faire 2 présentations. That's it. Le son, je vais le monter fort. Je vais me déconnecter de, de Discord là, pour pas qu'il y ait personne qui vient parler en direct, vu que je serai pas là. OK. Partage d'écran. Arrêter. Pour ce qui est de Discord. Micro. OK. Pas le droit de parler. Pas le droit de parler pour. Je peux pas. On peut pas m'entendre sur Discord. Fait que je vais décoller ça. C'est ça qu'on va faire. OK. Euh, ça. Ça. Puis quand que ben, je vais garder mon téléphone avec moi. Puis par la suite, je viendrai effacer ça là, plus tard. Mais que ça soit fini. Fait qu'on décolle ça à l'instant. OK, je vais checker avec vous au début, par exemple. Là. Par la suite, let's go, on décolle ça.
There's a massive quantum shift happening. And if you can't see it, you need to look around for just a moment.
It's pretty apparent at this point that we're in a transition.
Look at what is going on in the world. Even the United States allies are now downsizing their dollar reserves.
The government responded by money printing, paper backed with paper, a bubble that will inevitably burst.
Eu toda noite me pergunto por que todos os países estão obrigados a fazer seu comércio lastreado no dólar.
Xi Jinping just back from what he is calling a milestone meeting with Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman after telling Arab leaders on Friday that he wants to buy oil and gas with the Chinese yuan instead of the US dollar.
The dollar's worth a lot less. That's the best way I can put it. It's not the same.
And when they create a lot of money, that devalues our buying power, our purchasing power. That means our dollar's buying less.
It's something everybody's feeling. Food inflation is a very real thing.
I think Americans are a little perplexed when they see news reports of inflation coming down, and yet they don't notice any of their prices coming down.
Today we've got some good news. Good news about the economy. For the 6th month in a row, inflation has come down.
You've seen prices go up over the last couple years here with the amount of money that we've printed.
What's happened to this country? What in the world's going on?
All of my belief systems were crumbling.
I had lost my money for the 3rd time. So I'd ask myself a question at that point. There's something wrong with the programming, right? And I started to understand what is going on. Why do I keep going broke? Well, I realized that our system is not designed for us to win.
It was around the COVID time, so I think everyone was really isolated.
I've been researching gold and anything that I can find that would be counter to this fiat system. Up pops this Bitcoin thing.
I was hearing all this talk about Bitcoin. What in the world is a Bitcoin?
I'm right here watching history be made. Bitcoin is now up to $111.
Bitcoin is an electronic online digital currency, was created about 3 years ago, kind of flew under the radar. Now it's starting to actually gain some traction.
Bitcoin crossed above $10,000.
50,000. 72,000.
Bitcoin is the leader of pretty much the entire crypto space.
I got obsessed and became a Bitcoin maxi.
Bitcoin is a transformational piece of technology.
Somebody created like a new monetary system.
We were told that cryptocurrency is a fraud, that it's used for nefarious activities, it's used for criminals.
I've always been deeply opposed to crypto. Criminals, drug traffickers, tax avoidance.
What is cryptocurrency? What is Bitcoin? And so I started to do some social media posts on the actual research I was doing.
This video might be one of the most important lessons if you want to get wealthy in crypto.
And I remove all of the confusion and lack of clarity in crypto to actually make people some money.
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite crypto news channel, Good Morning Crypto.
There's a lot of fantastic educators and content creators on YouTube. It's helped me a lot in my journey.
These compounding rates that we've seen in crypto are the highest compounding rates I've ever seen in history. As we're changing money and as we're going into the digitization of money, and as we're going into the internet of value, as Chris Larson of Ripple says.
You know, a lot of people point to globalization as being, not working for people. And we would say, no, it's not that it's not working, it's just it's a work in progress, right? It's incomplete.
Truly the most efficient way for me to get money to London today would be to go buy a ticket at the airport here in Toronto and fly it there.
Joining me now to discuss is Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple Labs.
We're Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Good to see you both.
Ripple is a company. It has a CEO, it has offices, it has employees like myself. My name is David Schwartz. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Ripple.
Las Vegas, you guys having fun? Bitcoin
would be perfect if everybody used Bitcoin for everything, but that's unrealistic.
I think we're going to see a dramatic change over the next 10 or even 15 years. XRP is part of the heartbeat of Ripple.
The XRP ledger is a decentralized, distributed ledger. It has a community. It has an ecosystem of participants who use it in various ways, including things like exchanges, wallet providers, and Ripple also uses the XRP ledger.
I look at XRP as what's going to change the way value moves around the planet.
So every XRP transaction costs on the order of 1/10 of a cent, whereas like with something like Bitcoin or Ethereum, the cost would be much higher.
To send, receive, and manage digital value. Here at Ripple, we're building financial solutions that are faster, more transparent, more sustainable, and more efficient. What took days will now take seconds. What was costly will now be more economical. Call it the Internet of Value.
It goes from currency to currency within seconds.
There was something very powerful being built here.
Never been hacked, very secured.
Revolutionary blockchain technology.
XRP can serve as a bridge asset to the world, financial institutions, central banks, because Ripple's already working.
Bank of America plans to partner with Ripple. Qatar National Bank, they partnered with Ripple to improve cross-border payments.
Every bank in Japan will use XRP by 2025.
I'm going to put some money in this, and I think we're either going to lose all of it or it's going to do something crazy.
They would have globally dominated the entire industry, but for the regulators pulling them back.
SEC is preparing to sue that crypto startup. The asset in question here is called XRP.
We don't need more digital currency.
I will never forget this day the rest of my life. All of a sudden, my text messages start blowing up. My social media starts exploding. Coach JV, why did you get me into XRP?
It's an emergency podcast. Ripple has been sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Listen, if you have Ripple, if you have XRP, be very careful right now because the SEC are suing Ripple Labs.
This is complete and utter bullshit.
The SEC its mandate is to help protect investors.
I got fudded out of the whole project because of this lawsuit. I lost my dream, my hope of buying something really, really solid.
The SEC is trying to capture the digital asset space.
The SEC is really picking winners. It really, I think, sends an ominous sign for innovation around cryptocurrency in the United States.
We're trying to apply 1930s law to modern day blockchain technology.
The law doesn't really recognize what cryptocurrency is right now. And that means that Wall Street can run a little bit amok.
You don't have capitalism anymore. You have, I don't know what you call it, but it's not capitalism.
That we became convinced that this whole case was merely a show.
And he gave a speech saying that Ethereum was not a security. That is what you call an absolute conflict of interest. A member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance.
People's whole retirement investments were upended by a speech.
He's on the phone doing phone calls with Vitalik Buterin.
Charles said the Chinese have been courting Vitalik hard.
He raises an issue that we've discussed in depth, and that's the Chinese control of Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Who wins? Because I think that China wins.
Shoot that right there, that's killer B-roll up top.
What XRP Las Vegas has become today, I believe, is a highly interactive conference of people who understand that they are in a moment where this is one of the few times in life you have a chance to front run Wall Street. How many times in your life do you have that happen?
I'm not going to take a ton of time.
This is that moment. And the people in this space understand that, and they come to this event so they could be immersed in getting the most up-to-date and accurate information about where they're going with this investment that they're involved in.
Whenever you're ready, let us know your name, where you're from, and how you got into XRP.
How did I get into XRP?
Oh, how I got into XRP.
I got into XRP, kind of a long story short.
I had a lot of spare time and started investing in Bitcoin and the usual suspects.
Because I want to provide generational wealth for my family.
I was looking at blockchain and realizing that the transactions were very cheap.
I remember the dot-com years and how companies were so successful. And
I believe XRP is going to change blockchain technology and the future of currency as we see it.
I've got some concerns about the value of the dollar.
I feel like God kind of brought me to XRP.
It's the future of cross-border settlement and faster, cheaper, smarter. So I'm very grateful to be here at this XRP Las Vegas 2024 conference.
Guest of honor here, you know him as a warrior for the people, a United States Marine Corps major, a fighter, Semper Fi. Put your hands together now to welcome John.
I'm John Deaton. I am the managing partner of the Deaton Law Firm. I'm also founder of Crypto Law US, and I represent 75,000 XRP holders in a lawsuit against the SEC. The lawsuit happened on the 22nd of December. It's Christmas Eve, so it's December 24th. It's 2 days later, and I saw that XRP was going down in price, obviously based on the news. So I said, I'm going to read this complaint just to make sure I'm not missing anything. The SEC sues all kinds of companies. It's really not that big of a deal, but I wanted to read the lawsuit because I owned XRP. So I just pulled it up on my phone and I read the first paragraph, and it described XRP itself as a security. It said the digital asset security XRP. And basically I go, shit, that's not good. It was gonna crash, people were gonna get liquidated, people were gonna lose money, and people had their life savings in XRP. Whether it's a good decision or not, it's not the point, but the government shouldn't be the one that dictates whether they make a good investment or not. Government action shouldn't be what causes them to lose money.
This is case number 20 CV 10832, Securities and Exchange Commission v. Ripple Labs Inc. et al. The Honorable Annalisa Torres is presiding.
People understand that the case was filed, I think, right before Christmas in 2020. And the allegation was that XRP is a security, the way Ripple transacts and sold XRP were unregistered securities transactions, and that basically everything that Ripple had been doing since its inception was really one long, uninterrupted securities transaction. And more specifically, what the law calls an investment contract.
Ripple, the company had most of the XRP in existence and offered and sold it in exchange for cash or other consideration, and reasonably led investors to expect profits based upon their efforts, their promised efforts to develop a quote-unquote use for XRP, or to develop what's sometimes referred to as the XRP ecosystem.
The SEC's legal argument was that all of the things this very large company, this billion-dollar company, Ripple Labs Inc. was doing, was getting funds, raising funds, obtaining funds from all sorts of customers, large institutions, by selling XRP, and that they were engaged in this common enterprise together for an expectation of profit. In other words, that because of what Ripple was doing for XRP, XRP was going to increase in value. And that's basically the SEC's theory in a nutshell, on the legal side.
XRP is a separate thing altogether. It is a currency that trades in the marketplace. In the last 8 years, over $1 trillion of the currency has traded. And so what we find is, the SEC, in my opinion, having watched this for many, many years, taking a position now that it is, frankly, I think, with one foot out the door, a little bit incredible to kind of take the position after 8 years. The SEC brought 3 lawsuits. They brought a lawsuit against Chris Larson, the co-founder of Ripple. They brought a lawsuit against me, and they brought a lawsuit against Ripple.
We allege in our complaint, Ripple CEO at the time described himself as being very, very long XRP, and why Ripple and its executives described themselves as the parties most interested in the success of XRP.
They lost the lawsuit against Chris Larson. They lost the lawsuit against me personally.
The SEC has also failed to plead, as it must, that any of Mr. Garlinghouse's alleged sales were within the territorial scope of the U.S. securities laws.
What the SEC has been trying to do is to put power and politics over what is really just sound policy and providing clear rules of the road such that entrepreneurs and investors can participate in this amazing new market around crypto and blockchain technologies.
Coinbase, they had scheduled to halt. They halted XRP trading 15 minutes ago.
The exchanges have all the power to relist XRP and purchase XRP at their discretion.
So people with 300 million XRP bought more as all these people sold off.
As soon as it happened, you saw big exchanges, Coinbase, Kraken, delisting XRP. We're taking it off the platform. We're trying to get in the SEC's good graces. You only had a very few number of exchanges that were willing to keep it on there.
As a compliance-first company, to a degree, we don't care what the rules are. We just want to know what the rules are. In the US, there's still this enormous shadow over the space where there is no clear legislation. The SEC are effectively regulating by enforcement, and it just makes it impossible for legitimate companies to plan. It stifles innovation.
Many of them are quite frustrated that the U.S. does not have clear rules on the books yet, and it's created this unfortunate environment of kind of regulation by enforcement, which is pushing a lot of this industry offshore. We even filed a formal petition with the SEC asking them for clarity about a number of points in the law, which they never responded to.
They said XRP we think might be a security. We said, okay, we want to act in good faith, we'll delist it.
We decided to continue listing XRP after the SEC brought its complaint, after going to 3 separate law firms and basically saying, do you think the SEC is correct on a matter of law? And to our astonishment, all 3 law firms said, no, but we think you should probably delist it anyway.
I was blown away. I was very impressed with what the CEO of Cryptocurrency Exchange Uphold had to say.
You guys were probably like the only exchange, as far as I know, that was still listing XRP, which, kudos to you. And to your point, you were following the letter of the law.
And to be clear, we were taking a risk continuing to support it. We just decided we're going to stand by the community until there's a decision.
On behalf of the SEC, we allege in our complaint that the tokens sold by the defendants in this case, commonly known as XRP, were investment contracts, as that term is used in the Securities Act of 1933, and as that term has been defined by the Supreme Court in the seminal decision SEC versus Howey of 1946.
I knew that this was going to be basically a new area, and I knew that the law was going to have a collision with it because we're still basing law in the United States from the 1934 Securities Act.
The Howey test comes from a 1946 Supreme Court decision. There's a common enterprise prong of the test, which a lot of people would say that XRP didn't meet, right?
name's Jimmy Valley. I'm the founder and managing director of a family office investment firm in Houston, Texas called Valhill Capital.
Welcome to Valhill.
Prior to that, I practiced corporate securities law as a partner for several major law firms for over 20 years. We anticipate that blockchain technology is going to be used to fundamentally change every business, make it more efficient, and that's how I end up stumbling onto to XRP and Ripple. So I had done a couple of months worth of due diligence on XRP. We had very much concluded there's no way XRP can be considered a security. They had already had a settlement with FinCEN, so the Department of Justice, back in 2015.
Department of Justice and FinCEN took a definitive position in 2015, which was reaffirmed actually just last year, that XRP is a currency.
They said XRP is a virtual currency, and this was all a matter of record. We had the statement of facts and all that stuff from that settlement that calls XRP very clearly a virtual currency. If you scroll down to the statement of facts, I'll tell you why this is so significant. So this is the US government basically settling and declaring certain things to be a matter of fact. And you'll see in item 2 here, it says Ripple Labs facilitated transfers of a virtual currency and provided virtual currency exchange transaction services. We get to, I say, February of 21, we had at that time the Kick Interactive settlement with the SEC. That token had been issued as a security, but it had been only issued to accredited investors, and so it was effectively a private placement. So they allowed Kick Interactive to file a Form D to perfect the private placement, and then the token kept trading. They kind of went on like it was no problem. So we very much anticipated very soon that there would be some type of settlement where effectively that's what happened. They settle, pay a fine, off we go. And then in February, something really weird again happens. Acting Chairman Lee basically out of the blue changes this rule, this contingent settlement rule. And it basically made impossible what they had settled on in the Kick Interactive case. And so here again, it's like, this is just too weird. It's kind of like all these people are kind of going above and beyond to act outside of what is normal.
The SEC its mandate is to help protect investors. However, it has turned into a way to keep the small retail people like me out of opportunity.
It's unbelievable what is happening with the SEC.
I truly believe in my heart of hearts that the Ripple XRP versus SEC case is going to be the biggest financial case in history that is going to change our financial system as we know it.
If you had any doubts about our government being corrupt as hell, we are going to put all those doubts to rest in this video right here, folks. This is borderline treason.
SEC is part of a broader bureaucracy beast system is what I call it. So what's happened here is the SEC has tried to expand their jurisdiction into encompassing the entire digital asset space. They diverted their attention towards a transparent, legitimate company that was building out real utility in Ripple. And this is what, many of us have come to expose in the XRP community, is the fact that we became under attack.
And 100% bad faith, what the SEC has done here. We've completely exposed it all.
So what I'm going to lay out for you today is really astounding. It's all of these smart people from all over the world that came in and literally started a riot, rightfully so, against a government gone wrong, against an SEC gone wrong.
What is the XRP army? The XRP army is a revolution.
a revolution of individuals that are tired of the current system.
The XRP army knew exactly what was going on because they were targeted, but you had a lot of Ethereum folks cheering on that Ripple was getting attacked, you know, and obviously tangentially or directly XRP. And you just had a lot of these fragmented battles break off in the crypto community.
Are we chasing adoption of cryptocurrency, or, you know, are we fighting against corruption in the world financial stage, or are we just trying to increase the money in our bank account? The XRP army is just a collective of people who share that same mindset, that there's something else going on.
Then I got something that you'll really think's cool. Joseph Grunfest's letter to the SEC right before they made the decision to sue Ripple. He's a former SEC commissioner himself. And you'll see the date is December 17th. This is approximately 5 days before the SEC actually brings the lawsuit against Ripple. And it's addressed to all of the commissioners, all 5 commissioners of the SEC. Each of these key commission staffers has announced their departure from the agency by the end of this calendar year. When he writes this, the end of the calendar year is like 12 days away.
Jay Clayton drops this lawsuit on his last day in office. And then not just him, but a lot of the key players in this quit or gave their resignation after this lawsuit, like mission accomplished.
Simply initiating the action will impose substantial harm on innocent holders of XRP, regardless of the ultimate resolution. 5 days before, he warned them not to do it in writing.
The SEC was unable to actually produce any evidence that made any of us XRP or Ripple investors actually concerned about some of the things that were happening.
The SEC was meeting with Ripple for years, and not once did they feel the need to say, oh, by the way, we think you selling XRP could be a security.
We believe that XRP is not a security. Instead, it is a decentralized digital asset with fully developed use cases. And it functions much like Bitcoin and Ether, which are 2 other digital assets that the SEC has publicly concluded are not securities, and therefore XRP should also be concluded not to be a security.
You know, there has at a minimum been 3 going on 4 years of the use case of XRP being prevented from being realized, and other chains being given favorable, Bitcoin and Ethereum actually being given free passes. So they've actually been able to go and capture market share that XRP certainly would have captured if it had been on a level playing field.
Well, about 2.5 years ago, a little over 2.5 years ago, the SEC came out proactively and said they did not view Bitcoin as a security. They viewed it as a commodity or currency. Shortly thereafter, they came out and said Ether, the second most valuable cryptocurrency, is also not a security.
So the Hinman speech, we call it the free pass speech. If it's technically a free pass, that's kind of up for debate, but it basically gave Bitcoin and Ethereum what we call a free pass, and he kind of ruled it not a security. And there's lots of, the legal team of the SEC distanced themselves from that narrative, which showed that there's possible corruption when it comes to Bill Hinman.
Now, what's so crazy about this is this happened in 2018, and we learned through the SEC v. Ripple litigation that a lot was going on behind the scenes with that speech. There was a bitter legal fight to get a lot of documents exposed.
People were alleging was essentially that, you know, Hinman and others inside the SEC, you know, had some ulterior motive for doing that speech, giving that free pass.
A few days ago, after 2 years, 7 court orders, and over $100 million in legal bills, the Hinman speech documents, including internal SEC emails and comments leading up to this now infamous 2018 speech, they've finally been unsealed. They knowingly created confusion about the rules, and they used that confusion to regulate through enforcement. That's bad faith, plain and simple.
So I think you'll dig this as something that we made in the office on EthGate. Gave a speech and they cashed it.
And I'm going to give basically a high-level presentation of what Ethereum is as a technology, and then kind of organizationally how it is, including its IPO.
Will there be a limit on the amount of the Ethereum network? Either be like the BTC and Bitcoin, or like the XRP and Ripple.
Imagine that.
Alibaba looks like it will go public sometime.
Which could happen pretty much within a month. Welcome back. Alibaba is filing for its IPO.
Could be the biggest IPO ever. We'll see what kind of market cap it generates.
And everybody recognizes that gentleman right there, Bill Hinman.
Welcome to Regulatory Capture 101, also known as EthGate. In this incredible story of where a few select individuals go to our government actors and they capture them and they get them to give them what we call a regulatory advantage. An advantage that's blessed by the regulators, which really gives a monopolistic advantage to one asset over another. And that advantage was given to Ethereum. Here you see on this board the cast of characters. We know we got Jay Clayton, chairman of the SEC at the time. Jay Clayton from the law firm Sullivan and Cromwell.
You do know the rule that if they are represented by Sullivan and Cromwell in front of the agency, then you're going to be banned from being able to vote against them.
If they are represented by Sullivan and Cromwell in front of the agency, I would not be able to participate.
That was my point.
Bill Hinman becomes Director of Corporation and Finance. Bill Hinman is from Simpson Thacher.
If you have a token that's just used in the network for a good or service, and that's why people are buying it, and that service is available and up and running, not under development, then you may not have a security.
The thing to know about Simpson Thacher, they are a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Their entire goal is to drive all enterprise action and transactions to Ethereum. Not Bitcoin, not XRP, or any other thing. That's important as we move forward. Well, this fella right here is named Joe Lubin. Joe Lubin is a co-founder of Ethereum and the founder of Consensus. Consensus is a company dedicated to Ethereum and dedicated to this alliance.
This guy likes to talk.
Certain projects obviously sold securities.
And he's arrogant.
Ripple, overvalued or undervalued?
Oh, I don't want to say anything mean about them.
You don't have to.
Massively overvalued.
Joe Lubin is a co-founder of Ethereum with Vitalik Buterin.
Thanks to the power of modern communication, we have the ability to create technologies that are decentralized. Here is where Ethereum comes in. So Ethereum borrows from Ripple this concept that we should separate the state from the transaction list. Okay, let's do a sing-along. Anochi heisen gagayaku no wa doko ka ni kimi o kakushite iru kara.
When Jay Clayton was appointed SEC chairman, Joe Lubin hired Jay Clayton's partners at Sullivan and Cromwell. He hired several attorneys to come work at his company, Consensus, and he made one of Jay Clayton's partners, Patrick Baraducci, his deputy general counsel of Consensus. Jay Clayton, in December of 2017, he tells his friend Bill Hinman to contact Joe Lubin. So this guy tells his friend Bill Hinman to give his partner's client a call. And that begins the beginning of what is known as EthGate.
Hello, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about EthGate.
Here are the 3 things that you need to know about EthGate and why every single American should care about this story.
We need to know all these shenanigans that took place around the Ethereum free pass. We need to know what happened. We need to know about the memos that got written, all their deliberative stuff that they did to drive off down this path.
JP Morgan's got buyer remorse from Ethereum? Oh, say it isn't so.
We frankly saw the news coverage and the social media activity from folks in the XRP army. So they're making all kinds of claims, and I was frankly just curious, right? Like, this is quite a story. People are, these are interesting allegations. I wonder if there's anything to it. So we initiated some FOIA requests to try to find out. I'm Jason Foster, and I'm the founder of Empower Oversight. We're trying to ensure that there's greater transparency and accountability in the way that government operates. The Freedom of Information Act is a law that's intended to increase government transparency, and it essentially allows anybody to file a request for documents from any federal agency. What tends to happen is that unless you sue in court, you're at the bottom of the pile. And so there's this system whereby groups like ours, they just request information from government, they request documents. It can be emails, it can be calendar entries. We sent in one FOIA request, and then they immediately broke it up into a dozen or so subparts. We had to deal with a whole host of bureaucrats in dealing with trying to clarify and work on each request. They were like Lucy with the football. They said, well, okay, they then refused to actually do the searches on those names when we gave them to them. And all of this just eats up months and months and months of time, which is arguably, that's kind of the point, right? We would post those documents on our website when we got them, and then the XRP community, the XRP army would then interact with that, and then do a deep dive and pull every document apart and analyze the meaning of each one, etc.
Yeah, yes, they did.
It was like 99 pages or something, and all of it was blacked out. I'm talking about like all of every page is blacked out, markers through. Just, there's no other way to say it than just lies. That's all it is, lies. We're piecing together all these timelines with videos and public videos that we're able to find. From that is where the guys were able to formulate their Freedom of Information Act request, because they're like, oh, okay, so something's going on. So then you get this. Well, as it leaks out, when they're not lying and they're not trying to act like they can't find anything, it leaked out that they were meeting with Vitalik. It was, as I recall, Bill Hinman was literally on the phone with Joseph Lubin. He's on the phone doing phone calls with Vitalik Buterin.
The first meeting takes place on December 13th, 2017.
Bill Hinman, newly at the SEC as the Director of Corporation Finance, has a meeting with Consensus and Joe Lubin. The next day, Matt Corva, who's a senior lawyer at Consensus, ends up publicly revealing that they've been having meetings with the SEC and that things are going very well.
So what we're really focused on there is building an alliance with other blockchain companies, law firms. There's a couple of interesting law schools that are interested. We hope Berkeley's going to get involved as well, and regulators. We've had some talks with some folks at the SEC about this. We've had some talks with folks in other government agencies.
On January 25th of 2018, Jay Clayton goes to this guy, Chris Dixon, who is the general partner of A16Z, that's Andreessen Horowitz's crypto fund, the largest crypto fund in the world. And Jay Clayton says to Chris Dixon, put together a small working group and tell us what you want in writing, and you send that memo to Bill Hinman. Chris Dixon says, sure, I'll put together a small working group. Now, Bitcoin's number one, Ethereum at the time's number two. The third cryptocurrency is XRP, which is associated with Ripple and these two guys. So you would think that this guy would invite this guy to the party. Doesn't happen. Brad Garlinghouse never gets a call. It's never part of that small working group. Why? Because this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy are working for this, the Ethereum Alliance.
And what the chairman of the SEC said was, look, form a small working group and come up with some suggestions. Pretty much saying, look, we're tired of talking to people about the Howey test. Put some real practical suggestions together.
And so what happens is Chris Dixon calls on Lowell Ness, his number one crypto attorney, and says, hey, write that memo to Jay Clayton what we want. And what he does is he writes a memo asking for Ethereum to be given a free pass.
And this is the part that now not a lot of people know. And he invited Chris Dixon to round up the sort of the industry players who were really kind of trying to do it the right way, and asked for a couple of things. One, essentially, lay out in a very detailed, written, footnoted memo what existing law says about utility tokens. And two, give us a proposal for where to go from here. I got the chance to be the one to write all that stuff.
Lowell Ness worked for a firm called Perkins Coie. They too were a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, just like Bill Hinman, Simpson, Thatcher. And they put together this memo where they were asking for a safe harbor for one token. They only mention one token, and it's Ethereum. So you have the members of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, whose goal and mission is to only promote Ethereum, and they satisfied that goal in the memo because the only crypto token they asked for a safe harbor was in fact Ethereum. That was March 26, 2018. 2 days later, Bill Hinman meets with these Ethereum investors.
We submitted that safe harbor to them in March. We met with them. We met with congressional members. We met with Department of Treasury, the CFTC.
And he then starts writing his infamous speech. Bill Hinman is sending emails to multiple people at the SEC. To pay attention to the fact that the one agency at the SEC that was not copied on the speech was the ethics office at the SEC. In fact, no other commissioner except for the chairman, Jay Clayton, ever got to see a copy of the speech.
I worked for Congress for 8 years, spent most of that doing congressional investigations, and I spent 5 years at independent agencies in the executive branch. So I led 2 of those, and I was a general counsel for an agency for several years doing ethics. For a number of years, Congress has had various ethics statutes, so there are laws in place to prevent conflicts of interest, to prevent other things like that. And those are laws that can be prosecuted. They're criminal laws. On top of that, there are also a number of regulations that have been layered there to help avoid even the appearance of a conflict or other things like that. When it comes to cryptocurrency, you've got people trying to work off this legislation that clearly never contemplated what we're talking about today. And the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers, but when there are not set regulations, when there's not clear guidance, then it ends up being kind of an ad hoc, again, that regulation by enforcement. And that's bad for the public, it's bad for predictability. But Hinman made it so interesting because of his personal financial interests. And so that to me made this a perfect area for Empower Oversight to get involved in, because we could help bring transparency. He's the director of the Division of Corporate Finance. He had no responsibility for anything related to cryptocurrency, and in fact he'd been told by agency ethics officials he shouldn't work on anything that related to the work of his former firm. At the end of the day, the ethics office only gives guidance. It's up to the individual. He signed his ethics agreement in early 2017 when he started at the SEC. He commits he's going to abide by that agreement, and then after that the ethics office isn't looking over his shoulder. It certainly raises questions about his personal judgment and what his motivations were, because as he took those meetings, as he led up to that speech, it seems that the only person at the SEC who knew what was going on and what the impact would be was Bill Hinman himself.
On June 8th, 2018, Bill Hinman meets this guy, Vitalik Buterin. And they talk about this speech that Bill Hinman's going to give 6 days later.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Yahoo Finance All Market Summit Crypto. We're delighted to be here. Say that we have a regulator here from the Securities and Exchange Commission today who's actually got some developments that he's going to be sharing with us, so stay tuned for that. And with that, I think we're ready to kick things off and bring up our first guest of the day. We do have Bill. Okay, good. So our first guest this morning is Bill Hinman from the Securities and Exchange Commission, who has an announcement that he'd like to make. There he is, Bill. Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Take it away, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Moreover, putting aside the fundraising that accompanied the creation of Ether, based on my understanding of the present state of Ether, the Ethereum network, its decentralized structure, we believe current offers and sales of Ether are not securities transactions.
He comes out with his speech, a very public speech, saying that for all these reasons of decentralization and other reasons, that Ethereum specifically is not a security, and that we are not going to consider it to be a security. I say that because the we was obviously referring to the SEC, and there was a huge SEC logo behind him as he was giving the speech. But eventually, in the SEC v. Ripple litigation, he said, no, that was just my personal opinion. I was just speaking as, a member of the public.
Several senior ranking officials at the SEC, including the chairman and another commissioner at the SEC, went and roadshowed the Hinman Free Pass speech.
When we look at Bitcoin, or if we look at Ether and the highly decentralized nature of the networks, we don't see a third-party promoter. We're applying the disclosure regime.
You can hear the traders on the floor actually reacting to his commentary about that. Kind of a, come on, what are you talking about? And here Jay Clayton is basically giving a speech to a group of investors, giving a speech into the market,
Bill Hinman recently outlined the approach we take to evaluate whether a digital asset is a security, and I encourage you to take a look at Bill's speech, which is available on our website.
He refers everyone in the market to go look at Bill Hinman's speech that's available on the SEC website. So this is another SEC commissioner at the time. He basically commends the SEC for doing a great job and refers to Bill Hinman's speech.
I'll be honest, I think my colleagues have done a great job about this. The director of our division of corporation finance is a man named Bill Hinman, who did he gave a speech where he laid out, here's how we think about this, and gave a set of principles that the market can follow.
It must have been very shocking to be the number 3 cryptocurrency, watching that speech, and then to be sued a year and a half later by the SEC, claiming that somehow their decentralization is magically different.
And I remember thinking, wow, they've never done this before. This is crazy. This is huge news. And so I questioned myself immediately. I said, I wonder if Bill Hinman has any connection to Ethereum or Bitcoin. Because if he did, he should never give that speech. And that would never happen. That's what we all thought. Well, it turns out that Bill Hinman, this guy, while he was at the SEC being paid by you and me, taxpayers, he was also being paid as a profit-sharing partner from his law firm, Simpson Thacher. That mission of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance was fulfilled.
In order to understand the gravity of this story and its implications to the new global financial system, one must unpack the interconnectedness of multinational corporations and the very powerful executives that run them. So how do we do that? Follow money.
The Ripple lawsuit was filed in the end of 2020. And right after that, when Jay Clayton leaves his tenure and when Bill Hinman leaves his tenure at the SEC, they get very nice jobs at crypto firms where a lot of the money in those firms is in the Ethereum project.
Jay Clayton leaves the Securities and Exchange Commission, goes back to Sullivan & Cromwell to being a senior partner. In October, a hedge fund named One River makes a $1 billion bet on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Jay Clayton, within a couple of months, goes to One River, who benefited from this decision to sue Ripple. Bill Hinman leaves around the same time the Securities Exchange Commission, goes back to his law firm as a partner at Simpson Thacher, and he also becomes a partner of A16Z, leading up regulatory affairs for the venture capital firm.
He was paid $15 million from his law firm, a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, which is only meant to promote Ethereum, and he gave a speech saying that Ethereum was not a security. That is what you call an absolute conflict of interest. Simpson Thacher actually brought another IPO to the market, a company called K9 out of China, which guess what kind of equipment they made? They made Ethereum mining equipment. And so by Ethereum getting a free pass, that company made millions and millions in its IPO. Guess who was getting paid some of that millions of dollars? The guy at the SEC called Bill Hinman. It was his firm.
It is interesting when someone looks at that timeline of events, why we get an Ethereum specific speech adopted by Jay Clayton publicly Then we have a very large competitor to Ethereum, XRP, targeted in a lawsuit a year or two later. And then we have these two individuals working at crypto firms that made very big bets on Ethereum.
You got to understand where Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman come from. They're some of the best known securities lawyers in the country, is what I found out later. Just so happens, Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman were I think the two key attorneys in taking Alibaba public.
Jay and Bill work close together over here with this partner, Leming Chen, also from Simpson Thacher, for the Alibaba IPO.
They were like the attorneys of the year, or whatever they call it.
Alibaba pulled together some capital from New Horizon and Nepot Capital, both of which are princeling private equity firms. The founder of New Horizon is Win Young Sung, also known as Winston Win. He is the son of the Premier of China at this time in 2012. He Jintao is the founder of Nepot Capital. He is the son of one of the top 24 Chinese Communist Party politicians in the country. That's why these are referred to as princeling private equity firms. Ant Financial, Alipay is rebranded as Ant Financial, and they do a fundraise at a $60 billion valuation. They've just valued these two businesses, Alibaba and Ant Financial, in the course of a month at about $290 billion. In August of 2014, Alibaba and Alipay enter into a joint venture to basically establish what would become the new financial arm of Alibaba. Leming Chen, who ran the IPO for Simpson Thacher with Bill Hinman, becomes the general counsel of Ant Financial in February of 2016. In January of 2017, Ant Financial and MoneyGram announce a massive merger. Simpson and Thacher is counsel for Ant Financial in this mega deal. This is important because this is the American payment system and the Chinese payment system being brought together.
Ant Financial had made an offer to purchase MoneyGram when Trump was president. Trump, with a stroke of the pen, I think, said, nope, we're not going to let that happen. You can't buy MoneyGram.
They tried to buy MoneyGram, and the United States said no because there was too much of a connection with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and that was vetoed by the United States National Security Agency.
We get to June and Ripple announces a major transaction with MoneyGram where they acquired 9%, and in their SEC filings they inform the SEC that MoneyGram will be using XRP to move cross-border payments super fast.
So everything was going according to plan. XRP was the third largest cryptocurrency in the world behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. In fact, XRP and Ethereum would battle each other for the #2 spot all throughout 2018 and even into 2019.
The MoneyGram Ripple transaction that we had discussed before has to be called off because the SEC is suing Ripple.
So MoneyGram couldn't be affiliated with XRP because it's in the middle of an SEC lawsuit. Almost like that was part of the plan. Also, just as a side note, it's important. These guys' law firms, Simpson Thacher and Sullivan Cromwell, are both heavy duty in with JP Morgan. And if you go and you look, and there's a clip, There's a clip of JP Morgan bragging about their blockchain. And there's a whole video. Ant Financial is right on the diagram. I have the video.
One of the lead underwriters in the Alibaba IPO is JP Morgan. Who also had substantial connections to these princeling private equity firms. JP Morgan was later found guilty by the SEC for violating the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. They were giving jobs and internships to some relatives of Chinese government officials.
Many people don't know, but we have the videos, we have in their own words. JP Morgan was working with the Ethereum founders before the Ethereum mainnet launch.
Our company Consensus has been very prominent since the start of the Ethereum ecosystem. I can attest that JP Morgan was there right from the start before public mainnet was even launched.
In February of 2017, JP Morgan and other major companies that included Microsoft and Intel formed the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance for the sole purpose of perpetuating the use and adoption of Ethereum and that network by other major enterprises. In September of 2017, Jamie Dimon, who's the chairman and CEO of JP Morgan, famously declares on stage that if he ever catches a trader trading in Bitcoin, he'll fire him in seconds, when all of this support of blockchain technology was going on in the background.
I could care less what Bitcoin trades for, how it trades, why it trades, who trades it. If you're stupid enough to buy it, you'll pay the price for it one day.
In December of 2017, JP Morgan goes to Ripple's offices.
The idea that JP Morgan isn't actively working in the blockchain and Bitcoin space is not true. Frankly, I don't mind sharing. There are about 15 senior JP Morgan people at Ripple's offices this afternoon. Now, unless JP Morgan's going to fire them.
Does Jamie Dimon know that?
Apparently not.
In January of 2018, Ripple ends up putting the XRP, 55 billion XRP, into a cryptographic escrow that would be released at a rate of $1 billion a month for every month for the next 55 months.
What Ripple did was Ripple created a series of escrows that are impossible to complete. It's like I'm promising to do something that's literally impossible to do. And so the only thing that can happen to these escrows is they time out and the money goes back to Ripple. And so Ripple created a series of escrows that had a set of timeouts spaced a month apart. And what that did is that sort of guaranteed that Ripple could not put more XRP in circulation more quickly than some predictable schedule. And what Ripple does each month is when an escrow unlocks and reaches its time, Ripple decides how much of that we're going to use and how much we'll put back into escrow and adds another month onto that escrow.
So now we're in early 2020. It's the onset of COVID. In May, JP Morgan announces a fiat liquidity agreement with the two dominant US-based crypto exchanges, Coinbase and Gemini. In August, Consensus, which is now the de facto third-party promoter of the Ethereum network, acquires Quorum, which has the JPM coin project, from JP Morgan.
We developed Quorum, a private blockchain protocol that empowers businesses to build high-performance applications at scale.
And Consensus is also supporting JPM coin, which is a stable coin solution. So that's a separate network that JP Morgan has built on Quorum. The Quorum team is heavily engaged with us. I can't say much more of a detailed nature about that right now, but we are working intimately with those people.
On August 14th, 2020, Joe Lubin transferred critical intellectual property infrastructure from Consensus in Switzerland to a new Consensus entity that was substantially owned by JP Morgan, about 40%, squeezing out the original Consensus employees and shareholders. When you follow the money, it paints a very clear picture of China's financial elite working with the US financial elite and the regulators of the U.S. financial system to front-run the new global digital financial system.
Who wins? That's the question here. Who wins? Because I think that China wins. And this is where that's where it gets really interesting. Because if you take a look and you step back, even to this day, China just keeps winning. My understanding is that Ethereum, when they were literally, the guys were in financial trouble to get the Ethereum founders back maybe 2015 or 16-ish. And who bails them out? Vitalik Buterin heads to China.
So what is the future for Ethereum? Let's ask the co-creator, Stephen Narioff, who joins us now on the phone. Stephen, welcome to Fast Money. Pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, Amanda. Great to be here. Thank you.
So I'm Stephen Narioff. In addition to inventing the structure that became the ICO, I've probably done more ICOs than anybody. Alec, it's been about 5 years since we all came together, and you did some pretty great things that I think everybody knows about. And our relationship is amazing. We're roommates, would you say? In 2013, I got really, very interested in crypto, and I hired this guy that was running the New York City Bitcoin meetup. His name's Jonathan Mohan. Jonathan came in and dropped the Ethereum white paper days after Vitalik had written it. Vitalik was going to introduce this at a conference, a Bitcoin conference in Miami.
So back when Bitcoin was originally created in 2009, Satoshi was really testing two things at once. Let's not have one currency. Let's have thousands of currencies.
I sent Jonathan down, and he met with the team, and I can show a picture of that. And so that those were some of the original founders. You can see Charles Hoskinson over here, Gavin Wood, Vitalik, Anthony Delorio. The problem that they had was, what is Ether? Is it a security or is it not? And everybody was saying it was. If you could get over this first hurdle and say it's not a security, then how could you sell it to the general public? The guy that I had sent down there, I told a number of the co-founders, my boss can figure this out, meaning me. Charles Hoskinson calls me and says, your guy here says you can figure out, how we can sell Ether legally. It was a challenge I was willing to take on. Charles and I started working very closely together. Charles actually had quite a bit of experience in crypto. He had launched a project called BitShares about a year or so earlier. Their primary investor in the project was a venture capital firm known as Fenbushi Capital. It's a subsidiary, coincidentally, of Wang Shang, the Chinese large conglomerate.
I had a venture called BitShares, and the lead investor of that was Li Shai-Lao. And Li, he brought another person in named Bo Shen, and I introduced both Li and Bo to Vitalik.
Eventually, I was able to come up with a whole series of steps that I felt were tight enough and protective enough, and fell, most importantly, within the United States securities laws, because that was our main concern. And the process that I had come up with there was became known as the ICO, or initial coin offering. I had found a law firm called Pryor Cashman to help represent us. And we ran the idea by them, to see what their thoughts were on it. And I sent an email actually right after that meeting to Joe Lubin, to Charles Hoskinson, and Anthony DeLorio. Wow, this was cool. Wish you guys could have been a fly on the wall. We got the professor on the line. The professor is Joe Grunfus, because at the time he was also a professor at Stanford Law School. The thing that was extremely peculiar about the Ethereum ICO was the, I would say, linear nature of how the sales were happening. And what I mean by that was, in a typical ICO, you would see a surge of buying initially, and then maybe a drop off, and then maybe another surge, and it would be a very choppy chart. Ethereum's was the most inorganic, unnatural chart I've ever seen. It essentially was consistent buying the entire 41 days during the ICO. Crowd sale, much of which I spent with Joe Lubin, in the office that I'd rented for Ethereum in New York. Joe said, I wonder if we're gonna get lucky here and see, a nice hit come in a very short period of time thereafter. A significant number of transactions kind of all hit at once. The only way I could see something like that happening is if it was something that wasn't being done by human, but was rather programmed to be buying consistently throughout, and that there was some type of concerted effort to concentrate the ownership of the ether amongst a few parties.
In July of 2014, they actually launched the Ethereum crowd sale, and at some point shortly thereafter, HashKey Group ends up making an investment in Ethereum as part of the crowd sale. As we advance into 2015, Ethereum had raised millions of dollars in connection with its crowd sale to fund the development of the Ethereum network, but they were in trouble. They were running out of money. As we understand, they had failed to hedge the Bitcoin that was received as part of the crowd sale, and they were basically just running on fumes.
I got a fairly panicked call from Vitalik Buterin. The fact that the position wasn't hedged, in my opinion, is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. Joe ran a goddamn hedge fund. There's a word in the fund called hedge.
Yeah.
You had a guy who was handling this that ran a hedge fund for 8 years and didn't hedge your position. So ultimately speaking, yeah, you're to blame for all of this.
Right. I think that probably, yeah. If I had to describe my faults, it would be that I was basically trying to abdicate responsibility the whole time, and I think because I didn't really want it, and there's no one else. First of all, there was no one else who was clearly taking it from me.
Vitalik was going back and forth between Toronto, which is where he lived, and New York, and he was staying with me throughout, that year. When he was living with me, he was learning Mandarin. It's kind of curious, why is he learning Mandarin? Vitalik, kind of in the midst of a crisis at Ethereum, left Ethereum and worked as a partner at this Fenbushi Capital. He also took the position as, I believe it was chief scientist for Wensheng Blockchain Labs. He was really putting all of his effort into these Chinese, and he's called the V God in China.
以太坊这个项目的存在目标就是不是
took all this money and you were not making your actual own blockchain Ethereum scale.
So this is an article that was published to the HashKey Group's website. The HashKey Group is a spinoff of Wang Zhang. This article has been completely scrubbed from HashKey's website, and all references to it to the internet have also disappeared. This is the chairman of Hashkey speaking. If we could actively fund the development of Ethereum at this critical moment, we would not only become a major participant in this revolutionary project, but we could also leverage this opportunity to guide and implement Wang Zhang's blockchain strategic planning. So he proposes to Vitalik that they would donate US $500,000 to the Ethereum Foundation under the name Wang Zhang Blockchain Labs, which the Ethereum Foundation accepted. And they further committed, in order to dispel any developer doubts, that they would continue to fund the foundation over the next year so that the developers could focus on their work to help the Ethereum mainnet go live as scheduled. In July of 2015, the Ethereum network actually launches.
This is a conversation with Charles Hoskinson, and this is towards the, this is right after the crowd sale had been completed. Charles said the Chinese have been courting Vitalik hard, and Joe has a plan to bring Vitalik to New York with a $4 million Ethereum 2 group. So I think what he's saying here is that the Chinese, doesn't specify who those Chinese are actually courting Vitalik hard. And this is after the crowd sale, after they've already raised their money. And that Joe has some kind of plan to consolidate something in New York to create some second Ethereum group. He said, it seems to me that Joe wants to take over Ethereum. Let me repeat that again. It seems, Charles is saying, it seems to me that Joe wants to take over Ethereum. It's an Emperor of Japan strategy, i.e., Charles says, gradually figurehead Vitalik and take over the funds, basically take over Ethereum. Now, Emperor of Japan strategy, what that really effectively means is a symbolic figurehead. And so what he's saying here is their plan was to install Vitalik as not the leader of Ethereum that he has been portrayed to be all these years, but simply as a symbolic figurehead to be touted around, but that clearly these, what's being said here, there are other people in the background that would be actually pulling the strings. A few days later, Charles texts me back and says, someone must have spoken to Vitalik, he's gone dark. And he said he hasn't replied to any of my queries. And I replied, I said, if he's ignoring you, it must be Joe Lubin, behind that. Charles had some choice words to say about I'm completely done with these bleepers. I want that bleeper to burn.
Joseph Grunfest, he says here, national security considerations are also at stake. Correspondence from the United States Senate to the Director of National Intelligence and to the National Security Advisor regarding national security's concerns arising from Chinese control over Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Just prior to the ICO, the lawyers for Ethereum required the organization to agree that they would become what's called decentralized. If you're not decentralized, then you could be considered a security. The way that the lawyers went about this is that they required that Ethereum would issue new tokens, new Ether, to be exact, 30% of what they had sold in the ICO within a given number of years. The situation we have here is by the term of Ethereum's own internal documentations that were signed by Vitalik Buterin himself, Ethereum was not decentralized. Vitalik has a meeting at the Securities and Exchange Commission called by Bill Hinman. And the thrust of that meeting was to discuss whether or not Ethereum was decentralized. What occurred shortly after this meeting, I think in the opinion of a lot of people, changed the entire trajectory of the crypto industry. Bill Hinman made what has now become famously known as the free pass speech. Vitalik was in a meeting under oath talking about whether or not it was decentralized. Jeffrey Alberts, the attorney who wrote the document, was in that meeting as well. Prior to that meeting, there was another meeting under oath also discussing Ethereum structure with Joseph Lubin. After all of these meetings, and all three of these individuals knew about the requirement to issue the additional Ether in order for Ethereum to be decentralized, because I'm on that email, and those are the only other people that are also on that email. Yet Bill Hinman makes a speech and says it was decentralized and gave it a golden halo above every other token. And I suppose the only question really to ask is, did Bill Hinman actually know that Ethereum was not decentralized when he made that speech?
Ripple was sued by the SEC, Litigate and then we're going to go deep on how Ripple, behind the scenes, yes, settlement only the SEC and cryptocurrency.
Good morning, Warriors. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite crypto news channel, Good Morning Crypto.
Today on Good Morning Crypto, we will be discussing how the time is now for XRP investors, as former SEC Director William Hinman's emails have been released, exposing the games being played by the United States regulator.
We got 835 live listeners joining us. Show us some love. Smash that like button. We love you guys. We'll see you in 23 hours. And like we always say, Warriors, rise. Get your shit together, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
When you listen to the average XRP investor right now, they're extremely frustrated. They've been dragged through the mud. The people who are supposed to protect us are attacking us right now. They decided to attack Ripple because it was one of the most powerful projects in the crypto sector, and it was already having an impact in the United States.
We know that there are entities in place that have been there for a long time and in power, and so whenever you threaten that power, I think you're going to see, some things happening there. But the community, the XRP community held strong, I think, through most of it.
Yep.
But always questioned, why XRP? Why not ETH? Or why not, where was the SEC when FTX went down, right? How did they not see that one coming?
Why would the SEC willfully pass over Ethereum to attack the third largest crypto project when we know for a fact there's multiple illegal things that they've done on paper? There's no conspiracies here. The ICO was illegal. The way they raised funding was illegal. The fact that they offered the token in the United States was illegal. We feel like we've been attacked by the people who were supposed to protect us for no reason other than corruption. And that doesn't go away when this lawsuit's resolved, because the corruption still resides. We talk about Gary Gensler every single day. He's not the man responsible for bringing the XRP lawsuit forth. He's the man responsible for dragging it to the finish line.
So remember, Jay Clayton has left. Biden has become president in January, so he gets to now appoint a new SEC chairman. I think we knew it was going to be Gensler.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman.
We don't need more digital currency. We already have digital currency. It's called the US dollar. Hi, this is Gary Gensler.
The SEC Commissioner, Gary Gensler, yesterday spoke to members of Congress and called on them to rein in the wild west of cryptocurrency world.
We comply and then tell us they'll be suing us if we proceed to launch, with zero explanation as to why.
Gary Gensler, to you, your open hostility towards digital assets is hurting consumers and setting the U.S. behind the rest of the world.
I mean, the automobile wouldn't have survived if you didn't have traffic lights, if you didn't have stop signs, and even cops on the road to make sure there weren't accidents. And so that's part of our role as being cops on the beat.
When the Coinbase lawsuit was filed by the SEC and the one against Kraken, again, this was in 2023, there were a lot more cryptocurrencies that were deemed securities by the SEC or alleged to be securities by the SEC in those complaints. You know, all of the top 10 cryptos. And at that point, the industry knew that it was under attack and that nothing it was going to do or say was going to get the SEC off its back. And they came together finally, and you see that none of those assets were delisted by the exchanges in those complaints against them. And that now we've got the tide turning where the companies realize that we're not going to be able to play nice with the SEC, so now we got to play in their game and go on the offense filing these suits.
On January 1st, 9 days after the SEC filed the lawsuit against XRP and Ripple, I filed a suit called a writ of mandamus against the SEC. So that entire week, I worked on basically the suit against the SEC. And we filed it on January 1st at 1:30 in the morning. And so Christie said, listen, the government's going to come after you. Are you sure you want to do this? You know, the United States government's probably the biggest bully in the world, if we're going to be honest. And I said, listen, I'm willing to fill that role. I don't care. And so we hit enter. I didn't realize what was going to happen. I ended up posting it on Twitter, the lawsuit. What I did is I said, well, listen, if you want to join me, then here's a Google form. And I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe a few hundred people would sign up, if that. And the next thing you know, it was 5,000, 12,000, 20,000, and eventually grew to over 75,000 people from 143 countries around the world all joined.
He knew there was something wrong, and he was the only one willing to stand up and go really put his money where his mouth is and do it. And boy, are we grateful for him, because we have won with him. Do we say that we're special investigators for John Deaton for this?
Yeah, because...
Yeah, we do.
We approached John and said, look, you know, we've been at this for a long time. So we kind of started talking a little bit.
Then he would ask us, hey, can you help find information here? Because I think this is a great place to dig. And we started getting out the shovels and really going down it. Now there's a huge video library. There's all kinds of content that absolutely proves everything that we understand. We have Stephen Nureyev as well.
On September 19, 2019, over a dozen FBI agents broke into my house and arrested me. What happened after that was a nearly 4-year false prosecution, which was led by the SEC, which is a civil agency that does not have jurisdiction in criminal matters. So why did they come after me? I had an intimate knowledge of the Ethereum Foundation, its history, and a treasure trove of documents. I promised myself that when I got out of that, I would tell the world the truth as to what really happened. And that's what I'm doing right now.
It's a game of attrition right now. They're trying to get us to burp it up by keeping the prices low. And the lawsuit has given them the perfect cover story to suppress the price, and no one even questioned, it was delisted and they're not really using it. And there's all this stuff. But we know what we hold, right?
And I was really worried we were going to have a judge who saw the SEC as a regulator and simply say, you know what, the regulator is right here. But we got really lucky with our judge.
So John Deaton, representing XRP holders, how do you think it went today?
I think the judge was very lenient, at the same time a little harsh on the SEC. I'd have been a lot harsher. She's a better judge than I could ever be. And basically, I think we're going to see a decision in favor of Ripple.
July 13th, 2023. An absolutely historical moment.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Guess what? SEC versus Ripple ruling is in. Judge Torres didn't disappoint. She must have heard me singing.
What a historic day today. As Ripple Labs has beaten down the United States Securities and Exchange Commission.
Secondary sales were not investment contract securities offerings, so XRP, the token in and of itself, is not a security.
Ripple just won. XRP is not a security.
This has been 3 years in the making here. Ripple didn't violate securities by selling XRP on public exchanges.
There's no question that this was a victory, like a big victory.
Yes.
Everything the SEC cares about, they lost.
Yes.
Honestly, I watched your videos as soon as they came out. I'm like, all right, let me understand what's going on. The rest of the bits. The one thing I think we all learned is it does take a village to fight a bully, and this village beat the bully.
We got validated because there's evidence here, right? There's real evidence here, and it validates the story.
The 75,000 XRP holders who joined me should be very proud because we helped establish the cryptocurrency as a legitimate asset class, and we did it against the greatest bully of all.
We found XRP to not be a security, and that ain't never gonna change.
This is a recent decision, just a handful of days ago. We were pleased from that decision, recognizing the importance of protecting investors on the institutional investors. And while disappointed on what they said about retail investors, we're still looking at it and assessing that opinion.
Another legal case signals the SEC is going to appeal the Ripple ruling that XRP is not a security.
The SEC's motion to appeal the loss in the Ripple case has been denied.
The SEC is asking for $2 billion. So Ripple has urged the court to impose a civil penalty of less than $10 million.
The day has finally come in this XRP lawsuit, SEC versus Ripple, Judge Torres issuing the final judgment on remedies. You guys let me know in the comments down below, is an appeal coming? The XRP victory pump is already underway above 60 cents and on the move.
Today, XRP tumbles after the SEC says that it will appeal that landmark Ripple ruling.
Because the SEC is on a carpet bombing plan when it comes to crypto companies. My goodness.
Things are getting insane with the SEC as Commissioner Mark Ueda goes on TV and says the SEC's handling of crypto has been disastrous.
Policies and our approach the last several years have been just really a disaster for the whole industry. We have been setting this policy through enforcement. We've done nothing to provide
guidance on it.
Crypto exchange Crypto.com filing a lawsuit against the Securities and Exchange Commission yesterday in a bid to fight back against SEC Chairman Gary Gensler's ongoing crypto crackdown.
Under Chair Gensler, the SEC has become a rogue agency.
May 2022 is when we sent our referral to the SEC and asked them to investigate both the allegations that the XRP community was putting forth with regard to Hinman, in light of the emails that we received, but also to look at the SEC ethics office. When the report comes out, we'll read the report. But they had told us in those negotiations that it was in the final stages. That was February, it's now September, and we still haven't seen it.
We are really early still in when it comes to the number of projects, the number of use cases that cryptocurrency is going to bring to the table.
The quicker that we can get involved with blockchain, the more that we're going to be able to benefit from it.
We're really excited about these new developments within the industry and how it's directly going to enhance the XRPL ecosystem as a whole.
We're getting to that interoperable future where I hope the XRP ledger is like a great participant in there, and it's a place where people find lots of things that they want.
XRP offers a lot of efficiencies and a lot of advantages over these assets being used today.
By using intelligent tokenomics and smart contracts, we're able to manage it in such a way where we may at some point truly eliminate poverty.
The entire securities markets, stocks and bonds, private equity are going to be tokenized, represented on the blockchain to provide a new way for that value to be exchanged. And even real-world assets like artwork.
The blockchain is a tool to certificate something, in our case, digital and physical fine art.
You're going to see pretty much an amalgamation of everything tokenized on blockchain.
You're going to see something that we have never seen in our lifetime.
The potential that some of these assets have could be mind-boggling.
I actually think XRP represents more than just the cryptocurrency. The people who are endlessly curious tend to find themselves in XRP.
The whole mission of our channel now is just really exposing the truth, giving people a platform where they can get that truth. The fact that people allow me into their lives from my channel, the fact that people participate and believe in what's happening here to come and participate in this event and be a real person in this place is absolutely remarkable.
Those judges saw the pitchforks and said, something's not right about what's happening right now.
What is the XRP army? The XRP army is a revolution. It's a revolution of individuals that are tired of the current system.
Bon, fait que ça met fin au documentaire. Qu'est-ce que je vais faire? C'est que je vais laisser un peu la charte du prix du XRP BTC. Puis je vais laisser un peu ça en live. Tantôt, je vais mettre fin à tout ça. Et plus tard, comme prévu, je vais remettre le documentaire sur YouTube, avec la bonne bannière et tout, et sur Discord. Alors, ceux qui ont été là, tant mieux. Vous avez pu voir que ça avait l'air d'avoir du bon sens. J'ai pas pu écouter au complet, j'ai juste écouté surtout avec l'oreille. Je pouvais pas vraiment regarder un écran. Mais c'est nice de voir ça. Et je suis sûr et certain que vous avez appris une tonne de choses. Parce que avec qu'est-ce que j'ai vu, j'ai appris plein de choses. Je suis sûr que c'est pareil pour vous. Alors, je mets mon micro sur mute comme tantôt. Vous pouvez rester dans le chat pour discuter. Je laisse le prix du Bitcoin. Ça s'est stabilisé 1,18 XRP, 98 129 Bitcoin. Puis, merci à tous ceux qui étaient là. Je n'hésitez pas à vous faire un petit don si ça vous intéresse, pour m'encourager. Et laissez des likes. C'est gratuit, ça coûte rien. Merci, à plus.